What's going on, everybody? It is Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be here with you, but even more excited to be here with our wonderful guest, Mr. Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Congratulations on the birth of your newest daughter, your youngest child.
Thank you very much. It is, admittedly, I did much less than my wife.
Just a little. Yeah, you were involved months ago.
Yes, yeah, I was gonna say, but I did enjoy the journey for what it's worth. I did enjoy the journey. But yeah, thanks very much, Mike. Yeah, our daughter, Eliana, and this hat is in honor of her because all three of my kids, I wore this inaugural Las Vegas Knights hat for all of their births. Yeah, so yep, which all my buddies who are Bruins fans are like, what the hell? And I was like, dude, I get it. Like I'm a Boston guy too, but like this was the hat I had for the first one. Now it's got to carry through.
I get it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, has to. So Mike, so what we wanted to talk about today is I think something that really interests folks and people that are certainly landlords and might be getting frustrated with what they're experiencing right now from the $25 billion that I was just happy it didn't have a T in front of it this time when I saw it from Washington. But the $25 billion that they've thrown into the market trying to help with rental assistance. And I know that there's a ton of landlords out there that are grappling with this right now. They filled out the forms, they've had the phone calls and seen the emails. And I just wanted us to kind of dialogue about that because I think we've both been through it. We both submitted for it with some tenants. And so I just want to kind of talk about that and find out kind of what your experience was. You know, we can kind of talk through that over the next, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. So if you don't know what it is, there's actually been two of these now. As Trump was leaving office, he actually secured 20 billion in his, I guess, his second stimulus, and then Biden did another 25 billion. But basically what the federal government has done is allocated $45 billion for landlords. And what has happened is they can't interact with the states, but what they've done is taken the 45 billion and they've given it to the 50 states and probably DC as well. So 51 or whatever it is. And now what happens is every state creates their rules of the game. So I can't speak to yours. You certainly can. In California, the basically rule was, okay, you can apply for it. You have to take a haircut, which no landlord really wants to hear because, as I've shared, sometimes I'm down 20 grand in one tenant and 5 grand in another. But again, our lovely Governor Newsom says, hey, we're willing to give you 80 cents on the dollar. And oh, by the way, you must write off the other 20%. You can't come after the tenant for it. You can't charge late fees or anything of that nature. You also must agree not to evict for non-payment for a year and just these other lovely things. And again, thankfully, the United States is still a free country. So myself as a property owner can look at that and decide to play ball or not play ball.
Right.
So again, I've shared a story about a particular tenant of mine who is down $20,000, who is not abiding by the rules and using this particular environment to game the system that shouldn't be allowed, but it is given the current circumstances. So I looked at this situation and I could have applied. It would have been approved. I would have gotten about $16,000. I would have lost 4 and I would have been stuck with this problem tenant for at least another year.
Good word.
And I'm lucky enough to be in a situation where I could eat the $20,000.
Yeah. So
I said, no, I chose not to on purpose. And this is still a free country and that's my right as a property owner. I have another couple of tenants that were really, really trying.
Yeah.
And frankly, I had already given past months free. So I was already giving discounts greater than 20%. I was happy to take the 80 because I was brought out ahead.
Yep.
So again, this all boils down to people. We have gone through a horrific environment.
Yes.
It is not fair. It was not fair to anyone. But if you are working with me as one of my tenants or with my property manager, I've already bent over backwards and I have continued to.
That's right.
But if you are that individual who is using and gaming the system that I deem unfair and not communicating, I refuse to accept the money. I can't get you out till June 30th, but I already have the eviction filed. It's already approved. You will be removed on July 1st or whatever the first work day of the week is in July. And I feel okay about that. So that's my story in California.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, I think that that's exactly it, right? Which is we've all come together through this pandemic, landlords and tenants, and the people that have struggled. You and I have nothing against them. We recognize it's not their fault either, and that's why we're more than happy to work with them. But if you were a lousy tenant before and you continue to be a lousy tenant and become even lousier and not pay, even though you could, those are the folks that you and I have problems with. Is the ones that they still had a job, they were still making money, and they just took advantage of it. Well, and what they did was they really took advantage of Washington's stupidity, which often is the opportunity that many of us have to work with, is people making these sledgehammer and blanket type decisions when a scalpel like approach is far stronger. The rules would have been far cleaner had it been, if you're out of work and you can't pay, then work with your landlord to make some arrangement. You and I worked through that all on our own. We sent out multiple letters and we worked with people all on our own without any promise of the government doing anything, because it's just the right thing to do. Absolutely. All we expect is the same of a tenant. What's the right thing to do? And I know in New Hampshire, our rules, so I can charge late fees, which was nice. I could also charge utility that were there. And I could also, roll the months and all that good stuff. So I could charge late fees. What we also do though is we also cap late fees. So I didn't go after all the late fees that they own. I only went after what I cap.
Sure.
But we worked with them. And what was really interesting to me is it opened up for us on the 15th of March in New Hampshire. And I had all three people ready with all the documentation I figured that they would need. I had all of that to them on the, before the 15th. So they could literally, when that site went live on noon on the 15th, they were ready to enter everything into the portal. It is now April 9th and I have $0 more. And I have no more approvals. And I have no idea if they're going to be approved. None.
Wow. I mean, I'm just thinking, again, I don't know New Hampshire, but I wonder how much money they got. I wonder how much pain is really out there.
Well, I think the challenging thing for New Hampshire is that, and this is a backhanded boast, is that through all of COVID, our entire state only fell $50 million short of its budget.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So we came through COVID in really awesome shape, just based on how the governor ran our state, which was very smart and intuitive and, scalpel like precision. He did just an amazing job when it came to a lot of the important stuff. When it was really risky, he shut some things down, but he didn't blanket statement everything. And so I think it was really smart. But yeah, I think that the challenge is, and I'm not mad at, I'm more concerned about the lack of understanding that was there when they said we were given one organization for our county that was going to carry out the funding. One organization. And the problem is that they're not that big of an organization. And so I feel awful for the people in the chairs doing the work. They needed to create a process that was far easier to get approval or to get a yes or no. I'm not saying far easier to get approved, far easier to get a yes or a no.
A decision.
A decision. That way you could actually not burden the system and burden all of these poor people having to manage through all these waves of applications that they just don't have the bandwidth for. They're not built for that.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room here. There's a couple of things that I want to point out. First and foremost, I've said it many times. It's only about 1 to 1.5% of my tenants, and I've had thousands of them by now that are problems.
Agreed.
And it's been exacerbated in this crisis. It's still 1 to 1.5%. They're just worse in this crisis.
Yeah.
But I also want to flip the coin over, and I want to ask you this. I have known landlords in California that are trying to game the system, that have vacant units and, all of these other things, and trying to get 80% on the dollar. So I don't know that this is happening in New Hampshire, but I'm just curious. Do you think there might be some landlords that are trying to game the system and get quote unquote free money as well? And
it's always possible. Yeah, always possible. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen any evidence of that yet. So one of the other, videos that I'd done Somebody had said, well, the CDC is allowing this stuff to happen because they're going to start purchasing homes. Well, nothing at this point surprises me what the CDC does, because apparently they just make shit up as they go, which is like, I have an idea. We're going to say no more evictions. You don't have the authority to do that. I said no more evictions.
Yeah, with confidence.
Yeah, exactly. It's all how you say it. It's not. You can't just do it unilaterally, but clearly we're wrong. They can. So,
apparently.
I don't want to, go off into left field and be like, yeah, this is what it's contrived. I agree with the video that you did a couple of days ago saying, I don't think it's contrived. I think people did what most people do, right? Warren Buffett's famous for saying, when other people are running out of the fire, I'm running in. That's what you and I have built our entire real estate empire doing, right? We're buying in 08, 9, 10, 11, when everyone's like, what are you doing? It's like, idiot. I'm building my empire. And cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was it though. That's how we built, our empire and being smart and transitioning. But yeah, like I said, it's just like anything else, right? It's the 1% of the bad apples from a tenant perspective that have just made the decision, even though they can pay, that they won't. And those are the people that, quite frankly, I've got nothing to say to you other than you've won the battle, but you will lose the war. And all I have to say is you better find a landlord who doesn't do a landlord reference, or that doesn't put, I've never, when was the last time you were evicted on his application? Because I have a feeling that you're likely going to be living in a tent city.
Yeah, the downside for, again, I think you did that analogy well. The tenant, I already know the tenant that's got me for 20 grand and will probably get me for a total of 24. He feels like he's winning. I guarantee you he's telling his buddies, oh, I'm screwing my landlord. I'm that rich son of a gun. I guarantee you he's doing that while he's popping beer or champagne or whatever it is. And, in about 3 or 4 months, he will have a 24 or 26 or $30,000 judgment that will be on his credit for 10 years.
That's right. That's right. I like to tell people, hope it was worth it.
Yeah. Score.
And guys, again, at the end of the day, Mike and I are trying to have fun with this because it's really depressing with as much work as we put into creating great product and looking out for our tenants and addressing their needs. Hey, I literally had somebody send me something today that said, hey, there's a problem with the vanity. There's also a problem with a washing machine. Within 17 minutes, I had answers back to him of exactly what was going to happen and when it was going to happen. That's because we put ourselves in our tenant's position and say, if I were living there, what would I like to see happen?
Yes.
And so if you do it that way and run the business that way, we're all people. But as soon as somebody decides to take advantage of a situation, that's when I quickly will revert to, all right, then if we're squaring off here, I just hope that you're ready.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You want to play? I will play.
Exactly. Game on. Yeah, totally. 100%. So Mike, where can everybody find you?
Type in One Rental at a Time. I should come up in YouTube, Amazon, Instagram, all those good places.
Yeah. If you can't find him, you have an issue.
Yeah, you might not be on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you might not be on the internet if. Yeah, exactly. Mike, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to segment number 2.
You got it.
Awesome.